Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party consisting of Mr. Ray Carter, President of the Military Marksmanship Association, and Mr. Robert Alward, Executive Officer of USAMU. Mr. Alward is representing Lieutenant Colonel Casey Mills, the commander of the USAMU, as he is away at Fort Sill attending his son's graduation from basic training. Please remain standing for the national anthem. We are here today to recognize the accomplishments of two USAMU pioneers by memorializing range facilities for them. Pullum Hall and Wigger Hall are facilities that are internal to the Tommy G. Poole shooting complex. We will also enshrine soldiers into the United States Army Marksmanship Unit Hall of Fame, Support Section Hall, and Service Rifle Halls of Fame, and recognize 3 exceptional members of the USAMU for their accomplishments in 2022. To start this afternoon's festivities, the International Rifle Team will give a short capabilities demonstration of Pullum Hall.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sergeant First Class Hank Gray with the International Rifle Team, and Mr. A asked me today to kind of talk a little bit about Pullum Hall for you and just kind of show you what this amazing facility is, because I know a lot of you older generation haven't seen it yet. And some of you, actually our younger guys, may have not been able to see all that it can do. So with that being said, it was built in 2015-ish and primarily finished with AMU labor, as any good Army project would be. So we kind of got this, the shell of the structure, and then after that, many folks from the AMU, a lot of them are sitting out there in the crowd now, civilians, soldiers, everybody, put all the finishing touches on this thing, to include hanging all these TVs, a giant projector screen, and once we show you some stuff downrange, you'll see some of the other things. Even these targets and the wood and all that stuff was kind of all pretty much built in-house, which is pretty cool for sure. Some of you might recall that on this location is where the old IR lawnmower and target sheds used to live. And yeah, many years ago, yeah, those sheds were there. There was a big pine tree growing up in between the two of them, and believe it or not, but one afternoon a thunderstorm came through. The tree was struck by lightning, and it was about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Everybody had gone home, and it would appear that a burning branch or something fell out of the tree, landed on the target shed, and both sheds, the next morning we came in, were gone. There was just a pile of, just burnt stuff and fire trucks and things like that. So that cleared the site for the Pullum Hall now, for sure. As you know, it's been formerly named the Finals Hall, up until really today. But now it's fitting to give it a more suitable name. And after a great man has been a big part of the unit for a long time. I was telling Mr. A today, in fact, that I was Colonel Pullum's escort when he was inducted into the Unit Hall of Fame some 15 plus years ago or something like that. So it's kind of cool that we get to talk about it today and now dedicate a building to him for sure. So it is a truly multi-purpose building. As you might guess, yes, there's finals conducted in here for international rifle style shooting. We've done classes with our instructor training group. They come in here frequently and use it. We do, of course, everybody's favorite mandatory trainings, as opposed to the old days in the indoor range or who knows where else out in the field. We did a chili cook-off a couple years ago in here. Lots of demonstrations for distinguished visitors, things like that. While headquarters is getting refurbished, we used to have command and staffs in here even. So, and then of course an inclement weather venue for numerous ceremonies, even like today's. And then of course on top of that, it can still actually be used just as a regular old range. And we did that this year for nationals. USA Shootings Nationals, and then just about a week ago for the first stage of the Olympic trials, this was the 25-meter range during those events and everything, this go-around. So that's kind of cool, neat thing we can do up here as well. But going back, yes, its primary design was for finals and the international finals. So just as a quick touch-up and reminder for finals, so in about the 90s or so was when finals were first introduced into international shooting. And the top 8 in rifle events, top 6 in shotgun qualify through kind of, you have a preliminary round of qualification, and then the top 8 advance on to the final or top 6. Back then, you would shoot like 10 shots or 25 more shots. and that would add to your qualification score, and then we would choose the winners from that. That changed in about a little before 2016, so we'll say 2015 timeframe, because they used it the first time in the 2016 Olympics, where the scores went back to 0. So still is only the top 8 or top 6, basically. The scores went back to 0, and then those 8 or whoever just had to duke it out from there for the medals. And they added more shots at that point. So instead of just 10 shots, it would be like 24 shots for some events, 45, maybe 60 plus in the shotgun events and some of the pistol things. And along the way, they would do eliminations. So not everybody got to shoot all of the shots. So if you were at the bottom after 10 or 12 shots, well, you just sit down. And then we move to the next person. We shoot a couple more. Okay, you're out. You're 7th. You sit down. And we keep going all the way till we get to our gold medalists. We've had a couple other various changes in the finals from there with like head-to-head gold medal matches and stuff. We've now settled back to kind of what I just explained, and that's kind of how it's working these days. So that's the final, and that's what this kind of, the finals hall is, hence the name back then. The cool thing about the building, and the whole reason I'm here talking, is it actually has the versatility of 3 different international ranges. So as you can see now, it is set up and designed, it's in 10-meter mode, if you will. So right here, just behind our official party is the yellow firing line, and back there to the targets is 10 meters. And those are all, we have air rifle targets up there right now, but we can shoot air pistol as well. 10 firing points, so there's a hospital on either end in case something goes wrong in the final, but only the middle 8 are actually used. And then you can see I've got kind of a couple shooting stand podiums right there in the middle. That's kind of how it would be set up, with 10 of those all the way across the lane. And then you have your shooter monitor. They're all electronic targets. These are the latest and greatest that run off of light, actually, and kind of have sound as a backup and everything, too. And then up above, those smaller TVs are just a mirror image of what the shooter monitor looks like so that the whole crowd can kind of see the target as they're shooting. And then on these big giant TVs, they can actually have, if you're familiar, if you've ever watched any ISSF stuff, the like scrolling blue screen thing where they can put up their profile picture and you can see the actual live results as they're happening. We'll display those on those big TVs. So that's 10-meter mode. And I'll invite my team down and a couple of assistants. And we're going to change it over to one of the other modes, and you'll be kind of somewhat amazed, and it takes really only about 30 seconds to make it happen. In actuality, it takes a little bit longer because you got to unplug some stuff and plug in some TVs and things like that. But in today's changeover, we don't have to do any unplugging. So I'll kind of stand back and let them do their thing here real quick. So as you can see, all it takes, wheel some targets out of the way, maybe move the target monitors forward, and then open the big giant cool bifolding airplane hangar style door. And voila, we now have on the right side a 25-meter range. Obviously it's kind of set up for rapid fire pistol. We have a couple of those banks of targets out there just for demonstration purposes. And then behind that would be the 50-meter range. And those targets would win flags the whole 9 yards out there. So we can shoot finals in anything and shoot out here in any way, which is very cool. One of the things we'll do is we'll actually move those 25-meter bays. You see kind of some big doors downrange there about middle of the way. We can just roll them out of the way. We've got a Connex parked out there. We just park them in there under cover, just wheel them out of the way, and then we can shoot 50-meter without anything in the way and all of that stuff. So it's pretty neat. A lot of ANU labor. Again, that wall down there is actually made with kind of, we'll say railroad ties and full of, 8 inches thick of gravel or something like that. And our guys filled it up. So that is exactly how our range. And so now you can see how quickly we can turn it around, switch it from 10 meter, 25 meter, to even 50 meters. So it's a very neat building, super versatile. And a great venue to host a multitude of activities throughout the unit. So hope you guys enjoyed the short little demonstration here today. I'll close the door and we'll move on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ray Carter, President of the Military Marksmanship Association. He was assigned to USAMU when Bull Pullum was here in the middle 1970s and worked with them for 20 years involving the U.S. shooting team.
I have some comments from Gary Anderson, who couldn't be with us today, wrote about Bill Pullum. When USAMU soldiers returned to Fort Benning after the 1962 World Shooting Championships, we were informed that Lieutenant Colonel Bill Pullum would be the new International Rifle Team OIC. Team member reactions were mixed. Some feared his reputation as a demanding leader. Most of us said, hey, let's get on board. There was more than one team member He became the USAMU shop foreman, where his creativity and ingenuity helped USA shooters obtain better equipment. He teamed with former international rifle shooter turned college English professor Frank Hannenkrat to publish his first book, Position Rifle Shooting, in 1973. It pioneered with training concepts that changed rifle marksmanship. He published his second book, Successful Shooting, in 1981. His third publication, The New Position Rifle Shooting, came out in 1997. Bill Pullum's efforts to teach winning marksmanship made him a widely acclaimed world leader in his field. Bill Pullum also became a leader in shooting sports governance. He became a member of the NRA Board of Directors and chairman of its International Shooting Committee, also called the International Competitions Committee, that served for a time as USA's international shooting governing body. His personal leadership was instrumental in establishing a national shooting team program and the Olympic Training Center, U.S. Olympic Shooting Center. That center ultimately became home of USA Shooting, today's Olympic and International Shooting National Governing Body. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Pullum, USA retired, was a coach, teacher, and leader who made America's marksmanship efforts reach unprecedented heights, placing his hallowed name on this finals hall so that new generation of soldiers and shooting sports athletes can be inspired by his efforts to excel and win as most appropriate. Gary. Vision of what he thought should be done and work towards it. David Kimes and Stan Parmentier can confirm you did have to pay attention during ICC meetings, though, whenever a motion was just a straw man, as usually that meant getting the camel's nose under the tent for a future policy. The Pullum family should be very proud for all the hard work he put into our sport and the results that the USA gained from his efforts. Thank you.
Our next memorialization is Wigger Hall. To introduce this facility, I asked Mr. Carter to come back to the podium. Mr. Carter is a teammate of Lieutenant Colonel Wigger, a world champion in his own right.
Lieutenant Colonel Lonas W. Wigger Jr., also known as Wig, Sir, or the Big Guy. I can't add much to the list of accomplishments that'll be read off, but the Olympic medals, the World Championships, the incredible number of international medals, CISM medals, except to mention that some of his career he only had the Pan American Games, World Shooting Championships, and Olympic Games. His CAT didn't start until 1971, Championship of the Americas. There were no World Cups during most of that time until his last year of competition. So he basically couldn't count World Cup medals. He had one chance a year to win medals and set world records, and only 3 out of 4 years at that. Throw in 2 tours in Vietnam, and he was a busy guy. Wig was instrumental in inspiring many of us to start shooting, including myself. In 1995, a family friend brought some indoor A-17 paper targets. Some of you don't know what paper targets are, but it's what we used to shoot on. To a Christmas party my parents had, and that their daughter had shot a 220X in an indoor match at Quantico, Virginia, and tied Lonas Wigger. And so he brought it in, and if you can imagine showing me the targets, I'm going, yeah, that's great. But tying the Olympic champion was pretty cool, I thought. I'd just gotten hurt playing football. I was a 130-pound end and running back, so I'd just gotten hurt, and it was time for a career change, you might say. He helped me get going, you might say, the inspiration. I'd shot the Camp Perry that summer, the position championships, and shot 3 or 4 points away from them. And I was just thinking, what a great sport where you can compete with the current Olympic champion in the same competition at the same time. And how could you do that in baseball? You know, compete with Babe Ruth or Ty Cobb or, you know, Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle. So, and I know there must have been hundreds of people that he inspired to start shooting. I was even happier 9 years later when I was actually shooting on the same team with him at the USAMU, and then internationally from 1975 to 86 on CISM and US shooting teams. You could always count on Wig. He was an inspiration and never gave up. When shooting outdoors, sometimes the wind, the cold, the rain don't always allow top scores. So you can't fix a number in your mind, 1170 or whatever score, because sometimes the conditions just it's not going to happen, But you could always look and see what Wig shot and know what a damn good score was, because he very rarely ever had a poor score. He didn't win everything. Gary Anderson, Tommy Poole, Jack Foster, Jack Ryder, Margaret Murdoch, Lanny Basham, a few Germans and a few Russians occasionally got in the way. But Wig won more than his share, for sure. He was always good for a good, solid score in the team match, if not the team leader. He was tough and he never gave up. I was on the NRA International Competitions Committee with him for 4 years, and then worked with him for 11 years when I was working for the U.S. shooting team and USA Shooting. He was always working for what was best for the team. He spent an incredible amount of time behind the scenes that I didn't know until I was on the committee with him how much time he put in. Can we talk about Lonas Wigger as a motivator? The best pep talks I've ever heard came from Wig. Of course, some amount of alcohol was involved, and the really good ones. I just wish Apple had invented the iPhone from 1975 on so I could have recorded them. I would have made a mint. Wig had a medical profile for an injured great toe that kept him out of a lot of PT, but you never saw a big guy move so quick as during the inter-service softball teams. We used to, during inter-service, have softball game of the reserves against the active duty. That was the highlight of the year, you know, kind of get through the shooting to get to the softball game. Wig started the Fort Benning Junior Rifle Club and made all of us help coach them. I had two of those juniors on my team when I left the unit and became a college rifle coach, and another one came another couple of years later. And the experience of working with the junior shooters was invaluable when I was teaching college rifle and pistol course. Had 28 shooters, 14 firing points, and just me as the instructor. And there were 14 people shooting at a time, either rifle or pistol, and I was moving. But the experience I'd got that 1 year helping with the juniors really helped me. A couple of quotes, you know, not that he said them, but the intent was there. Fight to the last shot. Don't give up and do your damn job. Wig was not a touchy-feely type of guy. Most of the time, if you went to him, the reply would be something like, "That sounds like a personal problem, Lieutenant, deal with it." But he was there for you. He just liked to give you a little grief in the meantime. So I was privileged to work with Lonis Wigger, Bill Pullum, and Gary Anderson for years, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. They were great men.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ron Wigger, son of Mr. Wigger. I'd like to invite you to the stage.
Just to echo something that Ray said, my dad got that title, the big guy, from the Fort Benning Juniors. And it was out of respect for his status in the sport and what he gave back to the sport. He was the big guy in our sport. On behalf of Dina, Danny, Tom, my mom, Mary Kay, who just passed away this past May, but we know she's here in spirit. We know she's looking down on us right now. We are extremely grateful and honored to represent our father and husband, Lonis W. Wigger, Jr., at today's Hall dedication ceremony. We would like to personally thank Mr. Bob Allward for all the work that he did to make this day happen. He literally received final approval for my dad's dedication this past Wednesday afternoon, 2 days ago. But he stayed on it, he was diligent, he was persistent, and he was going to make it happen for our family today. And we have so much gratitude for what you did, Bob. Thank you very much. And by the way, just for those that don't know, it's a pretty long process to get a building or a range or a hall named at Fort Moore. It's about over a 2-year process for it to finally happen. And we're really blessed that it was able to happen during the AMU reunion. So that's just icing on the cake. To the family of Colonel Pullum, I can't think of a more appropriate person to share my dad's hall dedication ceremony with than Colonel Pullum. Colonel Pullum was my dad's first coach at the AMU, and my dad had the utmost respect for him as a leader and a mentor. They both shared a common desire and mission, and that was to defeat the Soviet Union in international competition every chance they got. My dad, along with other members of the AMU International Rifle Team, mentioned by Ray, Gary Anderson, Jack Ryder, Landy Basham, and Margaret Murdoch, absolutely dominated the USSR in the 60s and 70s. And by the way, that's part of the founding mission of the USAMU in 1956. Eisenhower says we need to put together a rifle team representing the military to beat the Russians. That's how this unit was formed. My dad had many titles and distinctions throughout his shooting and military career. He was the OIC of the AMU International Rifle Section from the late 70s to the mid 80s. He was the OIC of the AmeriCal Division Sniper School on his second tour to Vietnam in 1971. I already spoke about the big guy. The Fort Benning Juniors played a major role in that title. On his 80th birthday, USA Shooting gave my dad the title, The Legend, when they named the shooting ranges in the Olympic Shooting Center. The name was the Wigger Legacy Range. So he has another range in this country that's named after him. My dad was a 2-time Olympic champion, a 7-time world champion, and won an astounding 90 national championships. 90. He was a world record holder, an absolutely amazing 29 times. 29-time world record holder. He won an incredible 111 medals in international rifle competition, which is by far the standard of everyone in the sport. That's the highest medal count by far. I might add, all of his medals were won in the pre-World Cup era. Think about that for a minute. When there was only one major championship a year, some years didn't have one. If he would have competed in the World Cup era, I can't imagine how many more medals he would have won with 2 or 3 more opportunities to win medals. That still a great distinction to have. My dad began shooting at the age of 12, and when he was 14, he won the National High Power Junior Championship at Camp Perry. That was his first national championship, and then went on to win 89 more after that. He was still competing up until he got sick prior to his 80th birthday. He was still out there, and even though he wasn't competing at a high level, he was still out there supporting the sport, helping a lot of junior shooters. In fact, another title that he had, my dad had the hobby of making earplugs, custom earplugs. And the National Junior Olympics is one of his hot spots to go. And of course he'd make several earplugs, and at the Junior Olympics you had a lot of new shooters, it'd be their first time. They had no idea who he was when he was making their earplugs for them. And then my dad always volunteered to present the awards after each event, National Junior Olympic event. And so my dad would be introduced up on the stage, and of course you have the audience. And invariably, every ceremony, there was at least one kid who would say, "Hey, that's the earplug guy." But that's how unassuming he was. He was a very humble person, a very humble athlete. He didn't brag about his accomplishments. His bragging was getting out there and doing it, not talking about it. His accomplishments and contributions to the sport are the gold standard. It gives me great pleasure to bestow upon him one final title and distinction. We've all heard the new buzzword in sports is, who is the GOAT of a particular sport? Is it Messi? Is it Pele? Is it Nicklaus? Is it Tiger Woods? There's no doubt in our sport. No doubt whatsoever. The GOAT, the greatest of all time, is Lonis W. Wigger Jr. and I'm extremely proud to represent him today and our family. And thank you for everything. Appreciate it.
I would like to invite a representative of the Mr. Pullum family to come up to the stage.
I'm Colonel Pullum's daughter, the oldest daughter. My brother, and his children are here. My brother passed away about 3 years ago, and he served in the Army. He went to OCS here too, but we came here in 1960, moving from Germany. And as Wigger's son said, he loved to beat the Russians, and his job was to win at whatever we needed to do. And when I went to the 50th reunion that we had in downtown Columbus several years ago, how long was that?
2006.
The thing that impressed me was all the snipers, all the great shooters, they said, practice perfect. And that is so important that when you're up there and you're practicing like you're on an event. And I used that in my corporate career. I really didn't have a speech plan, but on behalf of my family, we're very proud. He's up there with Wigger, smiling on everybody here, and very proud to have it named after our family.
Pullum and Wigger families to come up front and unveil a portrait that will hang in this facility for all to see. During his career as an infantry officer, he graduated airborne and ranger schools, as well as the Armed Forces Staff College and the U.S. Army War College. His assignments included company and battalion commands and deployments to the Dominican Republic and Vietnam. He was assigned to the Pentagon as Chief Infantry Weapons Development on the Army General Staff and the Joint Chiefs of Staff's J5, and then to the Office of the SecDef ISA as Director, NATO Nuclear Policy. Assuming command from Colonel Hines in June 1978, he remained until his retirement on 1 September 1984, including 2 extensions of service beyond 30 years to complete the 1984 Olympic training cycle. When Arab CISM countries objected to women and high-power shooters on the U.S. CISM team, he was able to work closely with the Chinese and establish women's teams in the CISM shooting events. Included in the USAMU's command and funding were the 1st, 5th, and 6th Army Advanced Marksmanship units and the National Match Support Detachment. Throughout his command, he maintained a close communication and coordination with the Director of Civilian Marksmanship and civilian shooting clubs and organizations. He developed the precursor of the current Army World-Class Athlete Program. He was also successful in convincing Major General Grange of the need for an infantry school sniper course and initiated plans and programs with Brigadier General Burba. Perhaps the most important accomplishment was strong-arming the commander of the Corps of Engineers Eastern District to fast-track the construction of the Tommy Pool International Range, which the Corps of Engineers did not want to build with the $1 million provided by the Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army. His awards and badges include the Ranger Tab, Distinguished Rifleman's Badge, Master Parachutist Badge with 105 jumps, Combat Infantryman Badge, Army General Staff ID Badge, Joint Staff ID Badge, Office of the SecDef ID Badge, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit 2nd Award, Bronze Star with V with 2 oak leaf clusters, Air Medal with V, 6th Award, Meritorious Service Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, Army Commendation Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, Vietnam Cross of Gallantry with Palm 2nd Award, Vietnam Cross of Gallantry with Gold Star. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Stanley J. Parmentier.
You be careful who you give the podium to. I was here 6 years, and in their little piece there, they alluded to some strong arming of the Engineer Corps to get what is now the Pool Range built. I think W.O. Hardin and I went to Savannah and sat in the meeting where they told us, well, we just can't build this range. There's no real good place. You got to move too much dirt. We can't make the requirements to have the range open by a certain time, and we don't want to do this. And this is a little pipsqueak major, pardon me, majors. But I said, where's your boss? And he said, well, he won't be back until later this afternoon. I said, where's his office? So I went there and I sat and waited for the colonel to come in and explained what part of the problem was. And I said, your people don't want to build this range. And the Chief of Staff of the Army wants the range built. And we had a very good supporter as the Army General, Army Adjutant General, General Pennington. And I said, I understand that you are hoping to be on the next promotion list. And he kind of stood back in his chair and said, I wonder how it's going to look when I show up in the Chief of Staff's office on Monday morning and tell him that you don't want to build the range that he has just allocated $100, dedicated $1 million to for the next SISM range. And he said, you know, I guess maybe we can get it built. So I put his promotion under a little pressure there. But the way it started, General Pennington was really good. He loved to go with the SISM teams to places like Egypt and China. And when we got to China, there was an automated range. And the Swiss Ascor fellow said, we gave the Chinese one of the automated range systems, and they re-engineered it, and it's better than what we're producing. And I said to General Pennington, we need that range for the next SISM at Fort Benning. And he said, well, let's start working on that. So that's how that turned out, that I had to threaten a colonel with his promotion to get that range built. And between Wigger and I, we kept watering the grass so much it was a bog out there. But I'm very honored and humbled to receive this award, and I'm really honored for the number of ranges that have been dedicated here at Fort Benning or Fort Moore, for the people that served while I was lucky enough to be the commander. Bill Krilling's got a range here. Charlie Williams, I don't know if you all remember him as a service rifle shooter, and of course now these ranges as well, and the pool complex. But all these guys are great guys. And we've had so many great youngsters. The school commandant came to me one day and he said, there's a guy at Penn State that you ought to be looking into. I said, who's that? And he said, it's a young man named Glenn Dubas, and he's an ROTC. And I said, yeah, we got him. He's going to be here very soon. He said, what do you mean? He hasn't been commissioned yet. And I said, well, we have him assigned to the Marksmanship unit. And he said, you can't do that. I said, watch me. So a lot of you young collegians that were at that time in International Rifle came out of the colleges, and you're more known by your names than by the college, or by the colleges you went to than the names. But one other story from the SISM. You all got SISM jackets, you know. Everybody's got a few SISM jackets left over. I understand that no longer happens. But when we were in China, the chief of delegation came to me and he said, you know, Colonel, I'm getting damn tired of hearing your national anthem paid by our band. And I just kind of said, get used to it. And the Chinese helped us a lot, really. The Chinese really got that range built. And where they were moving dirt, about the day I got back from Savannah, and they had a young NCO from EOD following along because it used to be a mortar range. And then a Jeep and a trailer picking up old mortar holes and throwing them in that Jeep as the big earth movers went through and cleared off that hill. But it was quite a job. It really was quite a job. And I'm so proud that now Wigger's name is associated with that, and also with the Olympic Training Center. And Ray, I was the guy who voted against the Olympic Training Center because I didn't want the best shooters going to Colorado Springs. I wanted to come here to Fort Benning, Georgia. Okay, thank you very much. Stern-looking fellow. And by the way, the distinguished badge is 1956, the year the unit was founded. There wasn't much infrastructure here in 1956, I'll tell you that. But I'm amazed what you have done, and I thank you and Ray for putting me in for this award. I appreciate it a lot. Okay.
At this time, I invite Mr. Ray Carter, president of the MMA, to present each with a cowboy-sized silver belt buckle with a USAMU design and a $100 gift certificate on behalf of the members of the MMA. Would Sergeant Weiss, Sergeant Youngman, and Mr. Feemster please come forward? Shooter of the Year is Sergeant Allison Weiss. She was the 2022 World Champion in Women's Air Rifle, established a world record in the 10-meter air rifle, and earned an Olympic quota slot for USA in Women's Air Rifle. Sergeant Weiss won 8 medals in international competition in 2022. The new Shooter of the Year is Specialist Samantha Simonton. She earned a bronze women's skeet at the 2022 World Shooting Championships, won an Olympic quota slot for the USA in the women's skeet, won a bronze in women's skeet at the ISSF President's Cup, helped win team gold at the World Championships in women's skeet, and helped win silver in mixed skeet team at the CAT Championships. The 2022 Support Person of the Year is Mr. John Feemster. John worked in the loading room and loaded 80-grain 600-yard ammo that closed the performance gap between USAMU service rifle and civilian competitors that the service rifle has been working towards for years. He worked tirelessly to provide service rifle with hand loads that raised the team's 300-yard average by 1.4 points. Began work on 6.5 by 284 ammo almost immediately upon the decision to revisit the caliber. His efforts gave the senior rifle team the maximum amount of time to train and be successful. Provided 6 XC 600-yard ammunition to replace the underperforming factory ammunition on short notice before the 2022 NRA National Champions. This ammunition was used to win a national championship and set 3 national records. Accepting for Mr. Feemster is Mr. Lyman Grover. Ladies and gentlemen, the USAMU 2022 Persons of the Year. Thank you all. Pivoting once again, we move to the USAMU Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame concept was developed out of a desire to recognize those individuals who served their country and the AMU in a truly exemplary manner. The AMU Hall of Fame was established in 1994. There were 7 AMU alumni enshrined that same year. They were Gary Anderson, Joel Benner, Bill Blankenship, Colts Brown, Barbara Heil, James McQueen, and Margaret Murdoch. In 1996, 4 more joined the crew: Lloyd Crow, Jeremiah McKenzie, Tommy Poole, and Lonus Wigger. In 1998, Charlie Davis, Bill Krilling, and Jack Maples. 2000 saw the addition of Lanny Bassham, Frank Conway, and Jack Ryder. 2002 brought Jack Foster, Herschel Anderson, and Bonnie Harmon. 2004, William Pullum, Robert Whittaker, and William Lee joined the group. In 2006, in conjunction with the 50th anniversary, Eric Boyoung, Nat Drake, Emo Hugatter, Daniel Puckle, and Thomas Sharp and Earl Waterman were added. And in 2008, Burl Branham, Sally Carroll, and Glenn Dubas entered the AMU Hall of Fame. 2010 brought Boyd Goldsby, W.O. Hardin, and Red Mosley. And in 2012, Greg Strom, Hook Bolton, and Burl Wright. In 2014, Martin Gunnarsson, Aubrey Smith, and Robert Ayward. Our most recent inductees were Todd Graves, Martin Edmondson, and R. Pell Gapel in 2016. I would ask that all those Hall of Fame members present with us today rise and be recognized. At this time, it is my distinct honor to formally announce the 2023 U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit Hall of Fame inductees. However, before I do that, let me explain how one becomes a member of this elite group. In February this year, we began the difficult task of determining who among these great soldiers, shooters, and support personnel assigned to the AMU during the past 67 years would be selected as the 2023 Hall of Fame inductees. A committee was formed to nominate soldiers with the highest credentials, already in a section Hall of Fame, and who have been retired from competitive shooting for at least 5 years. Ballots were sent to all members of the MMA. The votes were then tallied to determine the top 3 vote recipients. Today, we will induct those 3 soldiers to join the elite of the elite in the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit Hall of Fame. The inductees will be announced in alphabetical order. Our first inductee. Michael Ante started rifle shooting at the age of 9 in order to hunt with his father. By the time he was 16, he was already a member of the U.S. national team. The very next year, he became the youngest member of the U.S. team to shoot all 3 rifle events at the 1982 World Championships. It was at the World Championships where Michael Ante was awarded the Distinguished International Shooter Badge. Michael attended West Virginia University and shot for the NCAA rifle team. While at WVU, he became a 4-year All-American in both air rifle and small bore, was a member of 2 NCAA national championship teams, and won the individual NCAA small bore championships in 1986. He graduated with a marketing degree and commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant in the regular Army in 1987. After completing infantry officer basic course and airborne school, Michael was assigned to the 1st of the 503rd Infantry in Korea, where he was a platoon leader and company XO from 1988 to 1990. While stationed in Korea, Michael earned the Expert Infantry Badge. He was then assigned to the USAMU in 1990, where he competed with the International Rifle Team in 1991. Michael won 3 gold medals and a silver medal at the Pan American Games. He also earned the U.S. Olympic quota slot for men's prone. At the 1992 Olympic Games, Michael competed in the men's prone event, and in 1993, he attended Officer Advanced Course and graduated from Ranger School. He was then assigned to 2-5 Cavalry Battalion, 1st Cavalry Division at Fort Hood, Texas, where he commanded a mechanized company and the headquarters company. He was reassigned to USAMU in 1998. In 2000, Michael won the 3x40 event at the Atlanta World Cup and qualified first for the 2000 Olympic Games in the men's 3x40 event. In 2004, Michael competed in the Athens Olympic Games in prone and men's 3x40, winning a silver in the 3x40 event. He also competed in the 2008 Olympic events in the men's prone event. Michael Ante has won 8 gold, 5 silver, and 5 bronze medals in international competition. Major Ante retired from the Army in 2009. In that same year, he was hired by the United States Air Force Academy to be the assistant rifle coach. In 2017, Michael was hired to be the head of the rifle coach at the United States Naval Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to present Major Mike Ante.
Nice of you all to show up for this big crowd. One of the things they were talking about Colonel Wigger. So Colonel Wigger I've known for many years, and a couple of things we were talking about in the office just now. I've gotten my butt chewed a few times during my career in the military. One of them was from Colonel Wigger, and I made the mistake once of calling him Wigger. And he did not like that. He said, you can call me Mr. Wigger, Colonel Wigger, or Wig. And so that kind of stuck in my mind. Also, Ray Carter had said, you know, he wasn't much of a touchy-feely kind of guy. He kind of said it how it was. And sure enough, I went to him after one of the tryouts. I think it was for the World Championships, and I didn't make the team. And they had done a different qualification. They had done an average instead of a full point type of selection, so it was an average. If they had done the full point selection, I would have made the team. Because they did the average, I was actually about a half a point out of making that team. So I went up to him, and this was like in Atlanta. It was in Atlanta. And he was sitting up in the stands, and I went up there trying to get consoled by Colonel Wigger. And I kind of told him the story, and he looked at me and he goes, well, you know what you got to do? You just got to shoot better. And I was like, yep, you're exactly right. That's exactly what I've got to do. So great memories of him throughout my life. I want to thank the MMA, the USAMU, and for those who voted for this incredible honor of being inducted into the USAMU Hall of Fame. I also want to congratulate all those that were nominated, and to my fellow inductees, Lieutenant Colonel Wanda Jewell, Colonel Bruce Meredith, and Colonel Stan Promotier. I've known each of these individuals for many years. I will always be grateful for Wanda for her part in getting me back to the AMU for my second tour. Without her efforts, I'm not sure that would have ever happened. When I joined the Army Reserves right out of high school, Colonel Meredith was actually the OIC of the Reserve International Rifle Team. And he gave me the opportunity to be part of that amazing team. I've also known Colonel Parmentier since I was 12 years old, when I joined the Acorns Junior Rifle Club in Northern Virginia. So we're all kind of interconnected here. I have always been inspired by his leadership and positivity. I also had the privilege to shoot with his daughter, Gloria, for many years. I want to express my deepest gratitude to everyone who has supported me throughout my career. My family, friends, and fellow teammates have been my pillars of strength and inspiration. I also want to thank the AMU for giving me the opportunity to pursue my dreams and goals. I always felt that being assigned to the AMU was a privilege, not a right. And I tried to never take that opportunity for granted. There are a couple of groups of people I would like to acknowledge that were instrumental in any success that I may have had. I've been extremely fortunate to have a number of amazing coaches through my shooting career. My dad was my first coach and biggest supporter. Bruce Borthwick when I was a junior shooter. Ed Etzel during my collegiate career. Rick Hawkins, Frank Briggs, and Mr. Krilling while I was here at the AMU. Mr. Krilling was the coach when I first arrived to the AMU in 1987. He was already recognized as one of the best coaches in the U.S., if not the world. He had the ability to get the best out of his athletes. He was a great technical coach. He was always available. He truly wanted to see everyone succeed. He never took credit for his athletes' successes, and he treated everyone with respect, and he actually and really loved the sport. I mean, he lived for the sport, and that's important when you're a coach. I've now been coaching for 15 years and try every day to be as good a coach as what Mr. Krilling was. The other group that was significant in my success at the AMU were the gunsmiths and the machinists. I had the honor of working with, in my opinion, 3 of the best gunsmiths in the nation at that time. Sergeant Chuck Garland, don't know if any of you, some of you older guys know who he is, was IR's gunsmith when I arrived in '87. He was a very talented gunsmith and put up with most of my crazy ideas on different things I wanted to try. Another one, Gene Clark, was our ammo tester before he moved to service rifle. Gene was amazing. He was patient enough to test a gun for days if necessary to get the best ammo gun combination. He would not give a gun back to a shooter until he was satisfied that the gun and ammo the athletes appreciate how lucky they are to have Glenn in their corner. So my advice that I have for the athletes is simple. Understand that being assigned to the AMU is a privilege afforded to only a few, and take full advantage of that time you have here to be the best you can be. Again, thank you all for this incredible honor.
Lieutenant Colonel Wanda Jewell is our next inductee. Wanda Jewell started shooting in high school with her father. One of the clubs she competed against was run by Lawrence W. Wigger Sr. Also, Wanda became interested in becoming a part of the USAMU. She talked to an Army recruiter about enlisting and being assigned to the unit. Unfortunately, the recruiter did not know what she was talking about and was unable to help her. She enrolled at Eastern Washington State University and shot on the rifle team, winning 2 national collegiate championships and became the 3-time All-American shooter. She enrolled at Army ROTC with the goal of being assigned to the USAMU. She was a member of the first ROTC class to commission women into the Army. Wanda came on active duty in 1976 as an ordnance officer. After her basic course, she was assigned to the USAMU as an instructor shooter. She competed for the Army until she left active duty in 1980, when she started to compete for the U.S. Army Reserve International Rifle Team. In 1987, she was again placed on active duty and assigned to the USAMU. Wanda R. Jewell was the 1984 Olympic bronze medalist in the women's 3-position rifle in Los Angeles. She competed in 7 consecutive World Shooting Championships, 1974, 1978, 1982, 1986, 1990, 1994, 1998, and was the world champion in women's 3-position rifle and women's air rifle in 1978 in Seoul. She holds the distinction of being the first woman in history in 1979 Pan American Games team in air rifle before there was a separate women's event in the Pan American Games shooting events. She earned the Distinguished International Shooter Badge. Wanda also competed in the Pan American Games in 1983, 1987, and 1995, and Championships of the Americas in 1981. She served as the USAMU's S1 and then as the USA Shooting National Rifle Coach and the USA Shooting Director of Operations. She is currently serving on the ISSF Rifle Committee. To date, Wanda has won 13 gold, 3 silver, 2 bronze for a total of 18 medals in major international competitions. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our second inductee, Lieutenant Colonel Wanda Jewell.
Not quite as tall as the rest of them. One of the things that I've noticed in today's conversations is that there seems to be a lot of talk about the team that you were with when you were competing and moving along in your career. I would like to share with you a couple of my memories of some team building. Stealing equipment so that we could build the Parks Range Office for International Rifle. At the time, Parks Range was two separate buildings, and Colonel Wigger, Major Wigger at the time, wanted an office for International Rifle in between. So we went to some condemned buildings around Fort Benning at the time, and I was the most easily hoisted through the boarded up windows to go in and take light fixtures, just anything that we thought we could use for the range. So that's one of my team building exercises. Another one of my team building exercises, the dreaded Fort Benning Juniors. And why I look back now and say that they were part of my team is because while I hated every minute of the evenings that I spent with the Fort Benning Juniors and standing out in the parking lot selling Christmas trees to earn money for them, yeah, I now look back and say, oh my gosh, so many of those people I have been on teams with, or they are competing now, or have competed, and won medals for the United States. And you know, every time people talk about teams, they say the individual can make a team stronger, but the team can make the individual stronger. And I think that some of my team building exercises, laying on a pile of 300-meter paper targets so that I could mark them for the SISM championships. No, that wasn't shooting. It really wasn't even prone practice. It was just getting the targets marked. And then exercises. Major Wigger, what do I have to do to never have to go to Camp Perry with the service rifle team? Shoot better and make the world team for that year. Because back in those days, if you didn't make the world team and were training for that, you went to service rifle and shot for them during the summer. So even service rifle is part of my team building. And I can't thank you guys enough for everyone that came before me, everyone that was here with me, and everyone that's to come. Thank you. It's a great team to be on.
Today's final inductee, Colonel Bruce Meredith. Colonel Bruce Meredith served with the USAMU and various international rifle and service rifle teams from 1958 to 1968, and then with the Army Reserve Team until 1986. He was born on 19 April 1937 in West Virginia and began shooting in high school in 1951. He was twice All-American at West Virginia University and was the first National Collegiate Rifle Champion in 1961. Bruce A. Meredith competed in UIT ISSF championships for the USA from 1967 to 1986. He won National Small Bore Rifle Prone Championship in 1967 and shot the first prone any sight 3,200 by 3,200. At the 1967 Pan American Games, he won 2 team gold medals and a team world record and earned a Distinguished International Shooting Badge. He won the team medal in the 1970 World Shooting Championship. Numerous World Cups. He competed in over 40 countries over his career. He has a distinguished badges in rifle, pistol, international, NRA small bore rifle prone, NRA small bore rifle position, NRA international small bore rifle, and modern crossbow. He earned the President's Hundreds Tab in both rifle and pistol. He is a recipient of the ISSF President's Order and the Diploma of Honor. He is in the U.S. Army Reserve International Rifle Roll of Honor and the West Virginia University Sports Hall of Fame. He has served as the president of the Military Marksmanship Association during the very successful 50th anniversary of the USAMU in 2006 and is a current MMA historian. Bruce left active duty at USAMU as a major and was officer in charge and team captain of the U.S. Army Reserve International Team, International Rifle and Running Target from 1968 to 1986. Bruce provided former USAMU shooters with the opportunity to continue to excel after they left active duty, as there was no unit of choice, no way to stabilize enlisted soldiers for 20 years, and no world-class athlete program back then. He managed a team of 84 former USAMU rifle shooters. Many of the USAMU Hall of Fame shooters actually spent some or most of their career on the U.S. Army Reserve International Rifle Team, thanks to Bruce Meredith's work in providing the budget, training, gunsmith support, ammunition, and organization. During the period that he was the OIC, his shooters won a total of Bruce Meredith.
First Sergeant Major of the unit, Sergeant Major Hand, always said, usually, Lieutenant, when you come in my orderly room, uncover. So I'm not covered here. Mike, you leave when you have to, or did he? Okay. That's part of what I learned with running an Army Reserve team. It's usually someone coming in for a plane late or running for a plane because before the match is over, their history. So my wife told me don't speak too long. I think she fixed that because page 2 is missing. Oh, this is always an honor for me. Thank all of you who voted for me. Thank you of you who did not vote for me but voted for someone for being in the MMA. Someone got your vote and they appreciated it. I first shot with the AMU Service Rifle Team in 1958 as a summer pickup from 2nd Army, Fort Meade. We were shooting M1 Grands. There were then 200 shooters on the Service Rifle Team and 12 coaches. With summer pickups, direct assignment here, Army Reserve Team supporting by the AMU, and as an officer in the MMA, I've been a member of this AMU family for 65 years. I had the honor of shooting on teams with many of the 1956 founding members of the AMU. Most are now deceased, and at age 86, I'm not far behind. It was part of my life and I gave it my all. You should do the same, you shooters. I thank my wife for tolerating my shooting activities. I served at Fort MacArthur, Fort Carson, and Korea. And my next assignment was to be at a nuclear missile base in Thule, Greenland, 700 miles north of the Arctic Circle, on the distant early warning line. That's when I decided to resign. You know that the shortest distance between Korea and the United States, Russia and the United States, is over the Arctic Circle. I was only making $5,000 a year, total, true. As a regular Army officer, I was involuntarily retained. So that's when I requested to be a full assignment to AMU at Fort Benning. And I was. That's when I first met Bill Pullum. He was then a major and I was a captain. He was running the service rifle team. At the end of Camp Perry, we both came back to, the International Rifle. I didn't learn how to shoot kneeling or win from Pullum. What I learned from him was how to run a team, because he was a no-nonsense guy. Most of you don't know what a Class A agent is. Some of you do. Class A agent is a pay officer. Used to be in the old days, everybody had to report for pay and I'd have to count out dollars. First sergeant would give me their chit and I'd say, okay, boom, boom. And so anyway, that's a paying officer. So one day we were down at Parks Range all together going to a match somewhere, and Colonel Pullum says to the second lieutenant, there's no children here, right? There are a couple babies. So I'll keep the language. This lieutenant, he says, Lieutenant so-and-so, you'll be the Class A agent. Get the money, pay the entry fees to the match sponsor when we get there. Lieutenant says, are you shitting me? He says, I came here to be a rifle shooter, not some pay guy. And Wigger and Poole, and we're all sitting like, uh-oh. He says, Lieutenant, no, I am not shitting you. And he proceeded to eat him up 6 ways from Sunday and let him know that he's an officer in the United States Army and damn well do what he's ordered to do legally. And when the smoke cleared, and I remember it was like yesterday, it was 50 years ago, Pullum says, may God deliver me from second lieutenants. Another story about Colonel Pullum. Wigger and I, one time, ran all the way to Houston and back and shoot a big match. We were craving competitions. So on weekends, we would run off on our own dollar, North Carolina, Tennessee, we're going to come back for duty Monday. We pay it for our own way. So one day, Pullum gets a call from some guy, Arkansas or wherever, and he says, Colonel, 2 of your boys are coming up here this weekend to shoot our match. We don't have anybody who can beat them. We should just keep them on down here at Fort Benning. And Pullum says, oh, okay, I'll take care of that. He said, I have 10 people here who can shoot those, who can beat those 2. I'm sending up everybody. I had a successful tour here, and when leaving active duty as a major, I was contacted by Major General William Sutton, who wore a Distinguished Rifleman badge, and he asked me, I think the exec here told him I was getting out of active duty, and he said, I'd like you to run all shooting for the reserve. And I said, sir, I'd respectfully decline to do that, but I will offer to do something new and different. I'll start an international rifle team for you for the reserve. He says, okay, sounds like a good idea. And I did. And so, as you were told back then, shooters getting off active duty had nowhere to go. Their career was over. And so I knew who most of them were. Kimes, and et cetera, the whole world, Banks, Harmon. And so I started sucking them up, boom, boom, boom. And pretty soon, over a few years, I had 80 of them. What a pipeline, straight from AMU to me. And 40 of them had the International Distinguished badge already. So we had a hell of a team that I ran for about 20 years. And many times we'd come in first, second, and third. And so anyway, that went really well for a long time. And General Sutton retired, and his whole staff went with him. So now we have a new crew at OCAR, Office of Chief Army Reserve. So one day we're all down here in fatigue uniform, that's what we called it back then, hats and everything, and this new colonel comes in, I think he was the chief of staff, and he wrote this thing up in his mind for a bunch of recruits, I'm sure, because he didn't look who was in front of him. NCOs, officers, and he starts this route of you ratty reserves, unkempt, no haircut, undisciplined, and I said, Colonel, I don't know who you're talking about, but if you're talking about my team, I'd be glad to sit down and discuss the matter with you. And for the first time he looked up and he said, and he saw an eagle sitting up here looking at his eagle. And the next word he said was, dismissed. And the following week I received a letter in the mail. And basically it said, thank you for your service. It is inappropriate for a full colonel to be involved in marksmanship. Good luck in your career. And that's when I said, all right. And the team was slowly disbanded over the next year or two, never to be reformed, unfortunately. And that's when I took my shooting talents elsewhere for the next 20 years. I had people like Dave Kimes that I put on service for a long time. He made the 80 Olympic team, got boycotted. So he didn't get to shoot, but he did win 2 world championships. I recruited Margaret Murdoch back to active reserve. She won silver in the 76 Olympics in Montreal as an open, not a women's event. And you ladies in the audience, I wish you would get her address and write her a nice thank you note. Without her, she was the greatest woman shooter of all times, especially 300 meters with that 308. You wouldn't have women's events, I don't think. Jack Ryder, put him on duty for a while, and he came back and won the medal in Munich, 72. Ed Edsel, for me, I put him 30 days on duty in California. He won the gold in what was it, 85 Los Angeles Olympics. The great, great, great team. A real loss to the United States of America. And I'll tell you something else. We didn't get any awards for shooting. If you won a match, that's your job. And the only awards I ever saw given out were good conduct medals to well-behaving enlisted soldiers, and Sergeant Major Blankenship got an RCOM at retirement. That was it. We had, let's see where I am in my little procedure here. We had no office buildings, no electricity, no latrines, no bathrooms, no running water. We had old-timey West Virginia outhouses back in the woods, all the ranges. And when Pullum got here and Margaret Thompson then showed up, first thing you had to do was build her a female outhouse right behind where your bunker, your ammo bunker is now. And he also took care of her to make sure that she didn't get a hard time from anybody. And she became probably one of the greatest women shooters in history. You are here with excellent facilities. Far from the times we had to shoot for 7 hours in a 300-meter match with paper targets. You might be in a kneeling position for an hour or two with some slow target puller. For big matches, we had target pullers from on post, 197th or whoever it was. These were the Vietnam years. These soldiers were drafted. They didn't want to be in the Army. And they sure as hell didn't want to be pulling targets on some Sunday morning after they'd been out partying all night. Some would mark you wrong. You'd shoot here and they'd mark you up here. Drive you nuts, ruin your score. One big match, leaving on the bus, going back for transportation to their barracks, they were throwing the bird and screaming, "Phi Tau Alpha, Phi Tau Alpha." And we looked down and there was smoke in the pits. They had set fire to all the paper targets. The whole match had to be canceled. There were nothing to score. Now I want to address the elephant in this room that everybody's thinking about. Being honored today are 2 full colonels, 3 lieutenant colonels, and a major. What the hell? So the story is, of course, as you heard, in the last reunion, all the inductees of the Hall of Fame were enlisted soldiers. And here's the facts. In the Unit Hall of Fame, there are 27 enlisted and 17 officers. In the totals of the Section Halls of Fame, there are 70 enlisted soldiers and 40 officers. Well, officers are losing, but still, why so many officers? Well, when the unit was formed to have international shooting against Russia especially, they needed prone, kneeling, standing rifle shooters. They had Joe Benner and a bunch of good pistol shooters. And so where are you going to find prone, kneeling, standing shooters? Well, the answer was college. Back then, as you might not know, in every government subsidized college and university, other than private or parochial, every male student in America in college was required to be an ROTC the first 2 years. If they wanted to advance the next 2 years, then they could. If not, they dropped out. But all the college rifle teams in America were run by Army ROTC. By Army ROTC. NCOs. My first NCOs was the first Master Sergeant from the World War II and a young Master Sergeant from the Korean. The biggest thing I did for my shooters was I gave them a 20-year retirement. And I gave them TRICARE for life. You youngsters don't care, but the old guys know. We're going to the doctor every week. 6 weeks ago, I had my 5th heart surgery. It cost $263,000. Medicare and TRICARE for life paid for it. So I advise you, stay on active duty, but if you get out, get into the Guard or Reserve and get your 20. People are inducted into this Hall of Fame by vote of MMA members. You must be in the MMA to vote. When I go to a Ranger rendezvous here on post, the youngsters and the old Rangers love talking to each other. I hope the current members of the AMU will mingle and talk with the previous members sitting here in the audience. This is the time to do it. We are watching and supporting your performances. The MMA supports you with plaques, awards, military ball, and others. That money is not endless. The first members of the AMU came here at the tail end of the greatest generation. Born before World War II, as was I and Colonel Parmentier and a few others. They laid the foundation for this unit. And the creators of its fame, not only nationally, but worldwide. Your predecessors built and saved this unit for you. Commanders like Colonel Parmentier defended the unit and saved it when it was destined for elimination. It almost wasn't here. So you're now here living your dream thanks to the old timers. You needed them. Now the MMA needs you. In 2006, we had 600 members. Now we have 250. And the old timers are dying off right and left. I ask you to join your professional organization. It's only $20 a year. That's the cost of a meal at Country's Barbecue. What I see here now are young, vibrant, energetic, and ambitious soldiers. Join the MMA and vote your own people into the Hall of Fame. Join today and come be with us tomorrow. Thank you for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2023 class of the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit Hall of Fame. Please rise for the singing of the Army song. This includes the formal portion of the 67th U.S. AMU reunion. Please come forward to join us in congratulating our newest Hall of Fame inductees and the families of Lieutenant Colonel Wigger and Lieutenant Colonel Pullum. If you have not done so, we invite all MMA members to travel some 100 feet to Wigger Hall and take a turn shooting at the Chutes and Plaque in remembrance of these events. We hope you join the unit members and alumni for dinner at various locations and rejoin the group at the National Infantry Museum Saturday at 900 hours for an inside tour of the museum. That will be followed by the MMA meeting here and the barbecue at Hook Range Pavilion. Thank you for attending this great event.